I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews we have Mikhil Pandey, co-founder and CSO of Persistence. Mikhil, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Hey, Ashton. Thank you for having me on. Very excited to be here.
Likewise, we've actually had Tushar, the other co-founder of Persistence, on in the past, but it's been a while, and I think we definitely need a refresher, and it's great to have you on the show as well. I'm excited to dive into Persistence, pSTAKE, what you and your team have been working on, and your thoughts on the industry and where we're going. For those who haven't seen the previous interviews that I've done with Persistence, I would love to start from a high level on just sort of an overview of what is Persistence, Persistence Labs, and pSTAKE, and then we can dive into all the latest details.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think refresher would be we started building in the space in 2019 officially. So we first went out in 2019 trying to build a chain that brings real world assets on the chain. Obviously, not a very easy thing to do, right? Like even today, it's 2024, and we haven't seen many real world assets on the chain yet. Now we are trying to solve this problem in 2019, and the bigger problem was how do you build a solution that can actually like allow you to do that. And for us, I'm personally a tech enthusiast. I spend most of my time looking at product and looking at how, from an engineering perspective, how can you solve problems. So for me and for Tushar as well, the idea was to pick a technology stack that would allow us to build that out. So in 2019 we made a bet on Cosmos. The idea was to build your own chain. We call it the Persistence Core 1 chain, and have different applications on top of that chain. Each of those applications serve a specific purpose, that is to bring real world assets on chain and do different things with those real world assets. So using real world assets as collateral to borrow against them, those kinds of things, but very specific to real world assets. So that was the purpose of building that chain. In 2020 we realized that it's still very early to do something like this, and it wasn't an easy problem to solve. So we started looking at different things, and around end of 2020, we kind of stumbled upon liquid staking. So we actually started off, when we started off Persistence, Tushar and I realized that one is actually a very bad time to start up, because we were in the depths of the bear market in 2019. 2020, we didn't raise any capital. In fact, early on, it's pretty hard, right? Like, because the COVID crash happened, so we could not raise capital. We had a team of 10 people, barely, making through month by month. We had some very good people in the team who were happy to say, okay, I'm not going to take my salary this month. So we somehow survived. But for surviving, we kind of had this thing where we started running some validator nodes. So we got into staking. So we were early into staking because obviously we were very late to do Bitcoin mining. But POS was a new thing in 2019. We made a bet on Cosmos. We made a bet on POS. We made a bet on staking. So we knew staking very well. Now, in 2020, there were more conversations around liquid staking, and it was still not a very big thing. It was still, Lido wasn't live. You had heard of Rocket Pool a little bit. Staffy was another player working in liquid staking. So we kind of saw that as an opportunity and an evolution from staking. And we decided to build liquid staking. So Persistence becomes the chain where you issue liquid stake tokens, and these LSTs are then used for different things. But again, the thought process, the core thinking process was the same, which is Persistence will be an app chain that allows for people to stake their assets, liquid stake their assets, and do different things around liquid staking only. And so to issue the LSTs, we built our own application called pSTAKE. So pSTAKE was the first application built on top of the Persistence chain. And we raised capital from some pretty, influential folks at the time. So Three Arrows Capital, Galaxy, Sequoia Capital India, Binance Labs, Coinbase, Kraken Ventures, all these different investors for pSTAKE. And Cosmos, the thesis around Cosmos was that, okay, we have the Cosmos app chain. There will be thousands of Cosmos chains, and you want to issue liquid stake tokens for all of them. That was kind of the thought process. And since then, our thesis has evolved, our focus areas have evolved. So on the Persistence side, the chain is still, serves the same purpose, which is you can have applications on top of the chain. So today, pSTAKE exists as an application. We have another application called Dexter that exists, again, built by Persistence Labs. So all three products have been built by, or Persistence Labs is the core contributor. We have other contributors as well, but primarily, the development happens from Persistence Labs. So Yeah, that is how we started. That is what we were doing until recently. And we have been thinking about the future of persistence and pSTAKE. And I'm going to be very excited to talk about that today.
Definitely. I want to dive into staking more. I feel like a lot of people that weren't staking or still aren't staking, they've now seen hype around EigenLayer and other platforms with the restaking and benefits that you can have over just staking your Ether, vanilla. Um, Maybe you can talk about a little bit from a high level for those people who aren't familiar with staking. Maybe they're not too technical, or they're just like, they think there's extra steps involved rather than just putting your Ether. They're probably holding their Ether in a cold wallet and it's just not staking at all, but they're sort of afraid to jump into it because of the complexities. Can you talk about the benefits of liquid staking, and why people should utilize these mechanisms that, like, for example, on what pSTAKE has?
Absolutely. I think the answer to that, again, if you're not familiar with staking is a simple mechanism that allows you to become a part of the network, right? Like there's this blockchain. Now, for this blockchain to run, it needs to produce blocks. How it produces blocks is by certain stakeholders within the blockchain who do the technical work, who run a specific software and a hardware to produce those blocks by looking at all the transactions happening on the chain, bundling them together and putting it on the chain. So you have the first block, second block, third block. So that's how the blockchain is formed, right? So staking is a method where you actually use your assets. So if you hold ETH, you stake it with a validator, meaning you give that validator more power to create these blocks. So the more the power a validator has to create blocks, the more blocks they can create. But while you do that, you're actually contributing to the network. You are allowing the network to be more secure, because if more capital is at stake, staking is like capital at stake. So if you do something malicious, your capital at stake is slashed. You get punished for doing something malicious. If you do something good, which is contribute to the network in the right way, which is what is expected, then you get compensated for that. So that's staking rewards. So the biggest problem with staking is that when you stake your assets, they get locked up. You can't do anything with them. It's just sitting there with the validator, producing some staking rewards, but you can't withdraw them immediately. If you want to withdraw them, you have to wait for a unbonding period or a cool down period, cool off period. Not ideal. Liquid staking allows you to earn staking rewards, but also use the same asset as collateral for different things, or just keep them liquid for no reason, right? Like for example, if Ashton, you wanna, if you have like 1,000 ether today, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna stake it, but when the market turns around and you want to exit your position, you'll have to wait in the exit queue, right? Because you say, okay, I want to unbond, you won't get your assets immediately. You have to wait for it. But with liquid staking, you deposit your ether into a liquid staking protocol, which then issues you a liquid stake token or a representative token. It's like a receipt, which you can then just give it to me. I'm like, okay, Ashton, I can take your receipt. I'm bullish on ETH. You may not be, but I'll take it. So that's kind of how liquid staking works. It allows your capital to be liquid, but at the same time, in the background, the underlying assets are generating staking rewards. So you're earning staking rewards plus your assets are liquid. So that's liquid staking in short.
Awesome. No, that really helps understand how the liquid staking works. And with pSTAKE specifically, can you talk about how that works? And are there certain derivative coins? And so you stake a certain coin and then you get certain ones back. What are the capabilities on pSTAKE's app?
Yeah, absolutely. So pSTAKE, again, like I said, is an application built on top of the persistence chain. Persistence is a Cosmos-based chain, so it uses the Cosmos tech stack. It is IBC enabled. It has a modular approach where you can build applications in modules, and you can deploy smart contracts using Cosm Wasm. So that's the persistence chain. pSTAKE was developed to issue LSTs within the Cosmos IBC ecosystem. So starting off with issuance of LSTs within Cosmos. So if you have Atom, you can come to the pSTAKE application app.pstake.finance and liquid stake your Atom. You get STK Atom, which is the liquid stake token or the representative token, or you want to call it the receipt or whatever that you call it, right? So pSTAKE issues that LST, and you can use this LST to do different things. Similarly, pSTAKE allows you to do liquid staking for Osmo, for DYDX. So we go after major Cosmos assets, and you can use these assets into the Cosmos ecosystem. So when I say Cosmos ecosystem, unlike Ethereum, where every L2 is kind of like operating in silo to bridge from one L2 to another. You need to rely on third-party bridges. In Cosmos, you actually just need to follow a standard for bridging, which is called IBC, inter-blockchain communication, which is standardized across the entire Cosmos ecosystem. So now when you have SDK Atom, you don't necessarily need to use it just on the persistence chain. You can take it to Osmosis, LP it in a pool on Osmosis. You can take it to UX chain, which is UMI, formerly called UMI, where you can use it as collateral to borrow against it. You can take it to Mars protocol. You can take it to the secret network on Shade. So you can do a bunch of things. You can mint stable coins. You can basically everything that DeFi allows you to do. You can do that. But recently we've been moving in a different direction lately, and that is going towards BTC. So that is something which really excites us all, and is something I would love to talk about here.
No, that's very interesting. And yeah, I want to dive into that. On the Cosmos ecosystem, I feel like the technology is really good, but and it's very advanced in the way that the different chains can work together. But I'm not sure if it's just a little technical or not as many people for sure know about it compared to those that are just staking Ether, because Ether it's easy to understand. And so many people are staking it.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin, I feel like, is huge, especially this year since the launch of ordinals and BRC20 tokens, and sort of the Bitcoin ecosystem is expanding beyond just Bitcoin itself as the network. And there's opposite opinions on whether that's good for Bitcoin to expand into other things, or the people that just think Bitcoin is digital gold, they don't want anything added. But I feel like it's adding a lot of community and value into it. What do you think about what's happening with the expansion of utility on Bitcoin?
I think it's definitely a very hot topic, and I think it's exciting to see things happening within the Bitcoin ecosystem. For the longest time, nothing happened. Things did not move, right? Now, what happens when you start moving is you either go into the right direction or you go into the wrong direction. But you're at least moving, and then you find out, and then change direction again. You find the right direction. But I think Bitcoin L2s so far obviously are kind of like side chains, right? To be honest, those are not true L2s in any form. Those are still side chains. But you could argue that's how Ethereum began as well, right? Like when, like Matic network, not Polygon at the time, it was Matic. Matic was a side chain, right? Eventually evolved into a layer two, and then became Opti, Arbitrum, 20 other side L2s now. So I do see that Bitcoin is going through that phase of evolution where there are side chains which are then gonna eventually become true L2s in every sense. There's Babylon coming, bringing yield to BTC. So again, I think for us, what excites us is the possibility of yields. Because if you look at our history, we come from a background of like just cash flows and yield generation. So we started with staking, right? That's how we survived in this industry in the early days. Like we barely made it because of some staking rewards that we would get on some assets that were staked on our validator node. So that is a cash flow game. We started working on liquid staking. Again, cash flow, yield play, right? So for us, what gets us really excited is yield. What gets us excited is betting on things at a very early stage, I would say. Not even like at an early stage. I say very early because we've so far been very early. We've been very early. We were in Cosmos, building in Cosmos when there were like 5 or 6 other chains in Cosmos at the time. Most people did not care about Cosmos. It was the second POS chain. We were participating in the testnet before it went live, right? So for us, it's been about being early, being in the right place. And we see Bitcoin evolving into that phase where it will have an ecosystem. It will have, it'll become an asset that is being more widely utilized in DeFi, because so far that was not the case. You had WBTC, which is what I think 10, $11 billion worth of WBTC exists today. How do you have more BTC generating more yield? And that is what gets us excited. So yeah,
No, that's
now
very
I'm very
exciting.
excited about this.
It's very cool to see Bitcoin expanding. But I'm curious on how that would work if Bitcoin is traditionally known as a proof of work chain where people are mining Bitcoin, not like Ethereum or Cosmos where you're staking it. Does the staking mechanism work in the same way in that it's helping the network if it's a proof of work chain?
Actually, no. So Bitcoin staking is a very different concept that was, I think, introduced by Babylon. I'm not sure if Babylon was the only one that introduced this, but essentially, Bitcoin still remains a proof of work chain. It has nothing to do with staking. But what we realized over the last year or so, is that there's a lot of chains now. Within Cosmos itself, there's 100 plus chains, right? Most chains, how do they have economic security? They have economic security by allowing their native token to be staked. So if you have like 100 million tokens of a chain A called, asset A, all these assets, 60-70% of these assets are staked to then secure the chain. But if the value of the asset is very low, if let's say the market cap of the chain, FDV of the chain is like $10 million, then you have an economic, if 70% of the coins are staked, you have $7 million worth of economic security. Now that's not enough by any means to attract a large sum of capital, right? So that's how restaking came into effect. The idea of, oh, let's build eigenlayer. Cosmos actually was the first restaking chain, to be honest, because it had interchain security. And let's not go into that. But I think, we've seen restaking as a concept, which is using staked ether to secure other services and chains. Now that's very exciting because you're using locked up ETH or liquid staked ETH or just liquid ETH to secure other services and chains. But there's so much Bitcoin that is sitting out there doing nothing, not generating any yield. How can you put that to use and secure other chains? That is what Babylon introduced with BTC staking. So what they bring on is they allow people to who hold their BTC to just stake it. When I say stake it, they just lock it up on Babylon. They deposit it into Babylon, and then they can choose. There are 20 chains, let's say, which are consuming security or want economic security from this BTC. They'll be like, okay, I'll give up 10% of my tokens to BTC stakers if they secure my chain. So 10% of all tokens of chain A, which is asset A, goes to BTC stakers of this, So that makes it very exciting. Now all of a sudden the idle BTC is generating some yield. And that's again, but that would create a small, inefficiency, which is you have BTC, which was idle so far, not generating any yield. Now you'll have BTC, which is being locked up to generate some yield. But why lock it up? Because we talk about capital efficiency. Why lock it up when you can have it in a liquid staked version? And that's where pSTAKE comes in, and pSTAKE issues the LST for BTC, which you can then use in 20 other places, right? You can take it to any BTC L2, use it in different BTC L2 ecosystems. You can just use it pretty much anywhere where there is demand for BTC as collateral or demand for BTC to mint as a stable coin. And I think that is then an exciting play.
Wow, that's very interesting, Mikhil. So if I understand correctly, you're, because when I think of how can we earn yield on our BTC, when I look at a DeFi platform, normally if you're supplying BTC, the yield is coming from other people that are borrowing it and paying interest, and you're getting interest for that. But in this case, with staking your BTC, it's actually helping secure other chains and that are POS chains. And then that staking reward actually gets funneled through to the Bitcoin holders. Is that right?
Absolutely, you're spot on. Yeah.
Wow, that's very cool. And is this something, I actually haven't used Babylon. I've seen it around on Twitter, but I'm guessing most people aren't familiar with it. Is that they actually have that working live right now?
So it's on their testnet. They had the third testnet finished today. They're launching the fourth testnet, and I believe they're gonna launch mainnet pretty soon. But that's me speculating on the launch.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
with pSTAKE, are you guys building something in the works in the near future here that involves staking your Bitcoin, or what exactly are the plans for evolving into this space?
Absolutely. So I think for us, maybe taking a step back, we've so far made bets in specific domains. Those specific domains are the thesis of the app chain thesis. We made a bet on that, which is multiple chains will exist, which seems to be very true, right? You see so many chains launching every day in Cosmos or on using other tech stacks. So the app chain thesis, which is there'll be app specific chains, is coming out to be true, but it's very inefficient because now with so many chains, you have barely like a few thousand users in this industry, to be very honest. And it sucks when I say that because I've been building in the space for 5 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't find many users, especially in Cosmos, right? So for us, the idea is to build something which actually makes a difference to a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is where Bitcoin comes in because it is that when it's actually a hedge against the timing of the world we live in, right? The world is in a shitty place, to be honest, and Bitcoin is a hedge against that. And
Mm-hmm.
you, I mean, most people believe that, and I firmly believe that we are in very dark times, and it'll only get worse from here. So for us, it's about working on an asset that gets us very excited first.
Mm-hmm.
So this pSTAKE issuing a BTC LST is going to be our flagship product. We will issue BTC LSTs. People can deposit their BTC into pSTAKE, which then goes on to Babylon, and pSTAKE issues a BTC LST that people can then use while generating staking yield in the background through Babylon, and that's the core product. And then we'll work with different projects, different protocols to make the liquid staked BTC integrated into those platforms. So using it as collateral to borrow against it, using the liquid stake BTC as collateral to mint a new stable coin, for example. So coming up with interesting use cases, self-repaying loans, 20 things that can be done that you've seen that have already happened with Ether or other
Mm-hmm.
LSTs, but doing it with the largest asset, with the most robust asset within this industry.
Mm-hmm. That's very exciting. And from what I recall, there's a large percentage of Ether that is actually locked up. What do you think are the prospects for Bitcoin as this staking gets more popular, and also with the influx of institutions and funds that bought Bitcoin through the ETF? Do you think that they'll find a way to get spot Bitcoin and stake it? Or how popular do you think this will become? How quickly as it gets more popular?
I think it'll become very popular because I think if you look at what Warren Buffett talks about, which is uh, he doesn't have gold in his portfolio because it doesn't have any inherent yield to it, right? BTC has the same problem, but that's the store of value meme that BTC has going for it. But imagine you could actually generate yield on it, which does not come from borrowed BTC. You're not giving out your BTC to somebody else. You're still staking it. You're still locking it up. It's still in a decentralized platform, on a decentralized platform. It's not, uh, yeah, it's not that you're lending it out to some other person who may not return it back. So I think a proposition like that gets a lot of people very excited. Obviously, the Bitcoin ecosystem, being pragmatic about it, the Bitcoin ecosystem has generally been, very conservative, and that is very fair given you know, the assets at stake, for example, right? It's the flag bearer for this industry, and the decisions that are made with BTC can trickle down to every other asset very easily. So I think the most important thing is that obviously the opportunity is too big. I'm not here to pitch you the size of the opportunity. I think it's something that everybody will get excited about because it allows BTC to be yield generating, and imagine being able to use your BTC to generate some yields. You have cash
Mm-hmm.
flows, you can borrow against it, you can do 20 things, man. I think that's super exciting.
Now, it's very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out and how it works on pSTAKE as well. So, for the viewers that want to learn more about this and they're interested in figuring out how to utilize Bitcoin, where's the best place to follow along with the launch and figuring out how to get started as pSTAKE continues to grow out this part of their flagship product?
Absolutely. So I think just following us on Twitter. Twitter is the best place to follow us. It's pSTAKE Finance. pSTAKE Finance is the handle, and uh, you can join our Telegram community. We share a lot of updates. You can go to pSTAKE.finance, where a lot of discussions happen. You can follow a snapshot for governance and participate in governance on the pSTAKE side. In terms of the product is expected to go live in June. And yeah, pretty excited to get this going. It has a lot of dependencies on Babylon going live because that's where the yield is going to come from. But yeah, I think this is going to be very obviously speculative and not financial advice, but I can see this playing out very much like, how Eigenlayer, EtherFi, Renzo, all of that played out. And that to me is super exciting.
No, it's very interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate your insights into the pSTAKE launch coming up, Babylon, staking on Bitcoin and how it works, something that I wasn't aware of. And I think probably most people still don't realize the potential of what this will become. So I appreciate you enlightening me and the audience today.
Absolutely.
I'm wishing you guys all the best on the upcoming launch. I will leave all those links in the show notes, and let's definitely follow up as we get closer and after the launch to see how things are going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ashton.